Hello, friend. Welcome to a space where together we touch the things we've never dared to name. Today, I want you to pause for a moment and think about an Aries you once loved, the one who burned for you, the one who made you feel like you were their entire world, until one day they went quiet. No more arguments, no more anger, just silence, and you started to wonder, when did they stop loving me? Or had I stopped seeing them long before that? Some endings don't come with tears, only the quiet fading of a flame that once could have lit an entire lifetime. And if you truly want to understand how an Aries who once loved you like there was no tomorrow could walk away in silence as if they never existed at all, then you need to start here, with the moment their fire began to dim, but no one noticed. There's a kind of sorrow in love that's quieter than silence. It's not when people argue. It's not even when someone walks out the door. It's when two people are still there, sitting side by side, looking in the same direction, but one of them has already stopped trying. Tonight, I want to tell you about a flame, not the kind that burns everything down, but the one that used to warm an entire soul. That flame was Aries. When Aries loves, they love with their whole being, like the morning sun, blazing, radiant, so full of life that you think it'll never fade. They love with action, with the way their eyes light up when they speak your name, with their full presence in every single moment. They love like you're home, and they're the fire in the kitchen, the soft glow on the porch. But tell me, who can keep a fire burning forever if no one adds fuel? Who stays when their light is no longer seen? The weariness in an Aries heart rarely comes from one big moment. It comes from the tiniest things: a text left unanswered, a hug that feels forced, that sinking feeling that they have to earn their place in a relationship they once believed was their safest space. Aries won't complain, they won't beg. They'll stay silent and keep giving anyway, like a flame that quietly flickers, hoping someone notices, yet slowly burning itself down, just to not feel empty. Some days they'll still text, still smile, still cook your favorite meal, but their heart, it's already stepping back just a little, just enough to go unnoticed, but also enough for them to know they're running out. No one sees how their eyes stop sparkling. No one asks why they go quiet, in the middle of a story left untold. And the saddest part, no one tries to hold them back, not until they've gone too far to return. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. They're the pioneers, the warriors, the ones who dare to love and fight for it. But sometimes, being the first means being the first to get tired, because they don't know how to ask for rest. They don't know how to say, "This is hurting me." Have you ever seen an Aries fall into silence? It's not indifference, it's a cry for help unheard, 100 questions left unanswered. It's loneliness, resting in the very hands that once held you tight, but now release you gently, so you won't feel abandoned. People think Aries leave too fast, but that's not true. Before they disappear, they stay far longer than they should. They talk themselves into trying again and again. They burn every last part of themselves, just to give it one more chance. It's easy to fall in love with an Aries, to get pulled into the fire of their spirit, but it's harder to notice the moment they begin to pull away. Some endings don't start with goodbyes. They begin the day you stop asking if they are okay. The night they tell a story and you barely respond. The moment you stop seeing them as light and start seeing them as a habit. And that flame, it still burns, but no longer for you. It burns one last time to keep themselves warm before going out for good. If you've ever loved an Aries, or if you are one, wondering why you feel so empty, I hope you understand this. The ones who give the most aren't the ones who don't feel tired. They're the ones who still believe that someone might stop, look at them and say, "Thank you for trying so hard." And sometimes that one sentence is enough to bring a fading heart back to life. But if no one says a word, if no eyes stay to witness the flame, that light will flicker, then fade and leave behind a different kind of Aries, shorter-tempered, less patient, and silently judging. In a silence no one understands. There's a moment in love that many people who have loved an Aries never notice, not until it's far too late. It begins when laughter slowly fades into sighs, when sweet words become sharp reactions, and that once loving gaze that made you feel safe turns quiet, almost like they're studying you through a thin pane of glass. But Aries isn't cold. They're just breaking, bit by bit. You see, deep down, Aries doesn't love with just emotion. They love with expectation. They love like a soldier, believing love is a place to fight. Not to fight against one another, but to fight with each other, to grow, to rise, to overcome the limitations of ego. So when love begins to crack, Aries doesn't walk away right away. They react like a wounded warrior who refuses to retreat. They start pointing out what's wrong. They speak more about what needs fixing. And yes, they start trying to fix the one they love. It sounds harsh, but the truth is, that might be their last cry of hope. I once met a woman who told me her husband was an Aries. For months, he stopped calling her by the sweet nickname he used to. Instead, he became overly formal, every word too polished, too precise. He wasn't the playful man she had once fallen for. He had turned serious, almost stern. She asked me, "Has he stopped loving me?" I looked at her and said as gently as I could, "No, he's scared of losing you. But he doesn't know how to love softly when his heart is breaking." Because with Aries, the more they care, the harder it is for them to stay silent. The deeper they love, the easier it is for them to grow frustrated. It's a painful paradox. And only those with true patience ever get to the other side of it. Behind every sharp glance is the fear that you've stopped listening. Behind every complaint is the hope that you still care, that you'll still stay, that there's still something worth holding on to. Love for Aries is never a straight road. It's a battlefield of becoming. And sometimes, when they feel love is drifting off course, they'll do whatever they can to pull it back, even if the way they do it isn't easy to receive. So if you're loving an Aries right now, or you once did and they've become harder on you, picking at every little flaw, don't be so quick to think they've given up. Maybe they're begging you, in the only language their aching heart can speak, "Please look at me the way you used to," like a child who doesn't know how to say, "I'm hurting." Aries sometimes only knows how to scream through anger. They don't know how to say, "I'm scared." So instead they point out what you did wrong. They don't know how to say, "I feel lost in this love." So they blame you for not leading the way. From a Buddhist perspective, we often think of anger as something negative, even dark. But really, anger is a form of pain that hasn't yet been healed. Behind an Aries who's criticizing you is someone who feels deeply wounded because the love no longer feels like the place they once trusted. But if you can look past that anger, you'll see a soul desperate to be loved the right way. And that's when, instead of reacting, you need to step back, not to lose, but to listen, to see, to ask, "What are you seeing that I haven't seen?" And maybe, just maybe, for the first time in a long time, you'll watch their eyes soften. So tonight, if you're listening, I want to invite you to pause for a moment and think about the Aries in your life. Have they grown stricter with you lately? Have they said things that sting or frustrate you? Could it be that this is their cry for help and you just didn't hear it? Share that story. It could be a moment, a look, a single sentence, because what you share might become the light for someone else wandering through their own relationship storm. And if no one stops to listen, if the anger is met with silence, not understanding, then the next chapter won't be a fight. It will be a quiet retreat, a sudden emptiness in a heart that's chosen silence over another goodbye. Some people don't leave with footsteps, they leave with their eyes. Some souls don't disappear from your life, but they're no longer in your heart. And Aries is exactly that kind of soul. They still show up. They still go to work, smile politely, carry out their responsibilities. But you can feel it, something's missing, and strangely, even you can't put your finger on what it is. Aries doesn't vanish with noise. They withdraw in silence. No warnings, no explanations. Just one day, you realize they've stopped telling you about the little things inside their heart. They no longer ask, "Did you sleep well?" They stop sending those random midday texts just to say they miss you. They no longer share those strange dreams they had last night, or the wild ideas for a getaway you both never got around to. But they don't lash out. They don't sulk. They don't say goodbye, because for Aries, those things might seem small, while inside they're battling a storm so loud, yet no one sees it. People often think Aries is strong, independent, fierce, and they are. But they're also deeply sensitive souls, easily wounded when they feel like their voice no longer matters. In the final days, Aries doesn't go quiet because they want to let go. They go quiet because they don't know what else to say. To be understood, they have spoken, they have cried, they have tried, and now they just want to find themselves again in the stillness. I call this the soul's retreat, like a wave pulling back from the shore, no longer wanting to touch What once wore it down, like a small flame curling inward, trained to protect the last bit of warmth it still carries. In that quiet retreat, Aries returns to themselves. They read more. They start waking up early, breathing in the morning air, or working late into the night, not to avoid you, but to hold on to the peace that's quietly slipping away inside them. You might ask, why didn't they just say something? Because for Aries, admitting they're hurting in a relationship feels like admitting they've failed their own ideal. They once believed, they once built, they once called that relationship a part of what happiness looked like. And when that belief begins to shake, they choose silence, because speaking it out loud feels like telling themselves, I was wrong. But here's the healing truth. Aries isn't running away, they're healing. They're mending a shattered heart with discipline, with distance, with things that may seem meaningless to everyone else. And in that process, God is right there with them, not in a burst of miracles, but in the smallest things. A quiet morning with a warm cup of coffee, an old song playing in the dark, or sunlight slipping through the window, whispering softly to their soul, I'm still here, you haven't lost a thing. Have you ever seen a soldier stand in the middle of a battlefield, not retreating even when he knows there's nothing ahead but a cliff? That's the most honest picture of an Aries, staying in a relationship long after their heart has already left. It's not that they don't know how to let go, it's that deep down, walking away feels like failure. And for a warrior, failure is never easy to accept. You might still see them trying, still playing their role, still being kind, still texting on time, still holding you close when you fall asleep. But what you don't see is that inside, day by day, their pride is quietly cracking. They no longer feel strong when they're with you. They no longer feel loved or worthy of love. They only feel like they are performing a version of themselves that once was real, performing a love that once was true. And when they can no longer find the courage to keep acting in a story that no longer fits, they choose silence. No one wants to be the first to let go, especially not an Aries, someone who once believed in the ideal, who once built love with everything they had. But even the strongest ideals fade if no one else is helping to protect them. And Aries, once they no longer recognize themselves in the person they love, they'll quietly leave, not from the house, but from the heart they once tried so hard to belong to. I once heard a middle-aged man, an Aries, say to me, my wife never noticed when I started dying inside. She only saw the strong man, but I never dared to tell her I felt invisible next to her. I asked, why didn't you say anything? He gave a quiet, broken smile. Because I'm the husband, the protector, the one who leads. Saying that would mean I've fallen. You see, Aries aren't afraid of losing someone. They're afraid of losing the image they've worked so hard to build, an image of strength, of reliability, of worth. They'd rather hurt in silence than let anyone see them falling apart. From a spiritual lens, I believe this. Not everyone fears being alone, but many fear becoming small in the eyes of the one they love. And sometimes, an Aries doesn't walk away because they've stopped loving. They walk away because they no longer feel worthy of being loved. The moment an Aries turns their back without a word, it's not coldness, it's survival. It's their last attempt to hold on to whatever dignity is left inside a heart that's been quietly breaking. If you're in love with an Aries, remember this. They won't bang on the door and scream that they're hurting. They won't write long letters explaining their loneliness. They'll simply get busy. They'll grow quiet. They'll drift away silently. And you'll think everything's fine until the day you suddenly realize they're no longer in your heart. The silence of an Aries isn't the end. It's the result of hundreds of quiet disappointments. It's the sigh after every unnoticed effort. It's the fear of, if I speak, will anyone truly hear me? And so, in the end, they don't speak. They don't blame. They don't accuse. They just withdraw, like a final flame, dying in the middle of a winter night without a sound. But behind that silence was once a sky that burned bright. And you'll never know that inside that stillness, Aries was holding a storm, a pain with no name, a soul crying for help in silence, because what they lost wasn't love. It was the belief that love could save them, just like a sky that's lost its light. Their inner storm will keep swirling, unseen, until one day it explodes. Have you ever seen a star fade away, but its light still lingers in the night? That is how Aries suffers in silence long after they've stopped speaking. No begging, no breakdowns, no angry outbursts, just silence. But inside that silence, A whole emotional universe is exploding bit by bit, and no one sees it. No one touches it, because Aries, no matter how strong, still struggles to express a pain. Even they can't fully understand. They once dreamed of a future with you. A little home glowing with warm lights at night. Someone patient enough to understand that their stubbornness isn't about winning, it's about the deep fear of losing. Someone who knows that beneath the tough exterior is a soul that only needs to be touched, with sincerity, without conditions. But when that dream breaks, Aries doesn't just lose a person, they lose the most beautiful version of themselves. The one they believed was real. And when they finally let go, it's not because they stopped loving, it's because they no longer have the strength to be the one who loves all alone. And the most painful part, no one sees they're hurting because they still show up to work, still smile, still pretend they're okay. You'll see their silence, but few will ever know that inside they're replaying every moment like a film stuck in reverse, whispering to themselves, "Where did I go wrong? Why wasn't my effort enough? And finally, am I still worthy of being loved?" Some people go to church when everything falls apart, but Aries, they turn their heart into an altar. They lay upon it their pain, their sacrifices, the words they never got to say, and they pray not for someone to come back, but simply that if they couldn't be loved right, at least they loved with everything they had. I once sat with a middle-aged man, an Aries. He told me he'd spent his youth loving one woman, but one day he realized she never truly listened to his sadness. She only loved the strong version he showed to the world. I asked him, "Do you regret it?" He paused, smiled gently, and said, "No, I loved with all I had, and when it ended, I didn't stay quiet because I felt nothing. I stayed quiet because I felt too much." Aries doesn't walk away out of indifference. They leave when their heart has endured too long in an empty space no one tried to fill. They step back to protect what's left of their pride, of their dignity, of a person who once gave everything, in the name of love, because love was never about being perfect. It was about being accepted even when all you have left is honesty, hurt, and pieces. Aries doesn't need a flawless relationship. They just need someone brave enough to stay, even when they show the softest part of themselves. Someone who won't run when they're weak, who won't judge when they are angry, who won't walk away when they go quiet, because behind an Aries who no longer speaks is a heart that once loved you so deeply, it's now too afraid to ask for anything more. So the question is there still hope for a heart like that? Is there still a way back when the one you love has walked away in silence and carried the pain alone? The answer is yes, but not in an apology, not in a late-night message, not in tears that came too late. The only hope lies in actions, quiet ones, real ones, in the choice to become someone different, not to win them back, but to become someone worthy of a love like that, a love that none of us should ever lose again. There are moments when words no longer matter, not because they aren't sincere, but because they arrive too late. For Aries, that moment isn't measured by time. It's measured by how much pain they've held in silence. And even after all that, there's still one way left to reach their heart. Not through last-minute apologies, not through long, tearful messages, but through small acts, consistent, steady, long enough to make them believe again. Believe that you've understood, that you didn't just regret it, you changed. Truly, to Aries, love isn't a fleeting burst of passion, it's constancy. It's the quiet presence of someone who stays, even when the fire has gone out, even when things aren't easy anymore. If you've hurt an Aries, or let them walk away in silence, I want you to pause, not to blame yourself, but to ask, did I love them the way they needed, or just the way I knew how? Because sometimes, people don't walk away out of indifference. They walk away after trying and trying, until trying feels pointless, and deep down, Aries still hopes for one thing. That someone, without making promises, will quietly find their way back to them. With just one offering, action, a shoulder touch at the right time, an eye that truly listens, a meal prepared without needing a reason, a hug that doesn't ask for permission, and the kind of patience that quietly says, "I'm not the one who will hurt you anymore." Love, as I've come to believe, isn't about grand emotions. It's in the smallest, quietest work of everyday life. It's how you walk into a room and remember to smile. It's when you choose to listen instead of react. It's when you let them cry, without trying to fix it. You just stay, you remain, because for Aries, consistent presence is the loudest declaration of love. You don't need to say, "I'll change." Just let them see you already have. I once heard a man share that after months of silence, the Aries woman he loved still hadn't come back. He didn't text, didn't beg, he quietly began to fix himself. He healed the habits that had hurt her. He became kinder, not for her to notice, but to become someone she could trust again. And one day, she returned, not because of what he said, but because he didn't need to say anything anymore. That's the one thing Aries hears clearly. Real action, no drama, no agenda, so I want you. The one listening, to ask yourself, if the Aries who once loved you walked back into your life tomorrow, could you show them, not with words, but with your life, that you've grown from the pain? Because sometimes the heart doesn't need to be convinced. It just needs to witness the truth. And if they don't change the way you hoped, maybe the thing that needs to change is how you understand them. Because sometimes, when someone is hurt at just the right moment, a heart you thought had walked away might still come home, if what they return to feels safe enough, patient enough, and real enough to stay. When an Aries walks away, people often think they are cold, that they cut ties without hesitation, but few ever see that before letting go, they were silently begging for someone to notice them, to see the weariness they couldn't name, to see the loneliness they didn't know how to explain, to see the last tiny hopes they held on to, even when they no longer believed in them. Aries is the first fire of the zodiac, the pioneer, the one who dares to love and dares to lose. But if you think they are always strong, look into the eyes of an Aries who's burned out from love. That look doesn't carry anger. It doesn't carry blame. Only the silence of someone who waited far too long to be seen, and in the end no one came. I believe every Aries is born with a light that's fierce, honest, a little impulsive. They love like a storm lamp in the wind. All in, no holding back. And that's why they are the ones who get hurt the most, when their light goes unnoticed, when no one sees them quietly folding in on themselves, when no one hears the questions they ask in the dark. Am I still enough? Am I asking for too much? Or worse, maybe I'm not lovable anymore. Aries doesn't need someone perfect. They need someone who notices when they're tired, someone patient enough to stay when they get distant, someone real enough to love them, even when they're no longer the same as they were at the beginning. There's something not many people realize. Aries hates getting hurt, but even more than that, they hate being seen as weak, so they don't complain, they don't ask for help. They just build a wall and quietly disappear when the wound cuts too deep. If you've ever loved an Aries, I hope you understand. Behind that bold exterior is a heart softer than you can imagine. They love more than they show, they hold more than they say, and they endure more than they'll ever admit. If they've walked away, it's not because they stopped loving. It's because they stopped believing they could be loved the way they need to be. You ask me, is it possible to make an Aries stay? I think, only if you're gentle enough to listen even in the silence, brave enough to fix yourself instead of fixing them, and wise enough to love them not the way you want, but the way they can receive it. Thank you for staying here with me till the end. Not just to understand Aries, but to understand the quiet depths of the human heart, where sometimes just one look at the right moment, one embrace in the right place, can stop a soul from slipping away. And I hope, whether you're an Aries or someone who once loved one, that you'll find the courage not to leave in silence, and the kind of love that stays, not in words but in action.